Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fitton Center for Creative Arts. My name is Ian Mackenzie Thurley. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to Celebrating Self on a beautiful winter's afternoon here in gorgeous downtown Hamilton, Ohio. Thank you for braving the snow and the slush and the cold and the sleet and the thing. There's something about mail carrying there that I know somebody will be able to add in. But we know that our mail carriers are awesome, but so are our fantastic patrons here at the Fitton. So we appreciate you coming out, and those who've been coming out all week for classes and events. So thank you so much. Speaking of thanks, we'd like to thank ArtsWave in Cincinnati, the Ohio Arts Council, the City of Hamilton, and the Hamilton Community Foundation for their sustained support of the arts here in Hamilton and of the Fitton Center. Please put your hands together. Shout out to our friends at ArtsWave. We were down with them this morning. I'm coming to you, I promise. They've got their own microphone and everything. Our friends at ArtsWave kicked off their annual campaign for ArtsWave. They've been great supporters of the Fitton Center and of the arts in Hamilton for many, many years. So if you have an opportunity to do that, please do. Would like to thank our sponsors for today. I would like to thank our good friends at TV Hamilton, our media sponsors that's going out live. Thank you so much. Two women in a kitchen. Oh my goodness, did everybody have lunch? Yeah, you had lunch. Wow, just incredible. Please note there is no poultry or ducks on the menu. Barry, what did you do? And I would like to thank Kathy Klink, who is our sponsor for this year, for this entire series of Celebrating Self. We appreciate you, and as ever, bringing a full crowd, a full table here to the Fitton Center. It's greatly appreciated. Speaking of our sponsors and donors, a huge congratulations and thanks to our donors. We have had our annual campaign that has met its match of $100,000. We made goal this year, and just a little bit extra. We're at about $120,000. So thank you so much to our donors and sponsors. Congratulations to Ramona Toussaint and to Isabel Zori and our team here at the Fitton Center for making all that happen. Mark Motes on the social media and the emails going out, and also to Kate Rokamp. You might see a fantastic video that's on our website. Please go look, you can still donate. It's put together and led by Kate and the team here. We're really very fortunate, and we're very, very appreciative of the support. Thank you very much. We ain't done yet. We are here every Saturday night, so you need not leave. Find a seat here at the Fitton Center, because every week we've got something on. We have the circus coming to town next week with My Nose Turns Red. On Saturday night, we do on Valentine's Day. It's also Mardi Gras. We're having a Mardi Gras party, so we replace the Ducks with a 7-piece Mardi Gras band, or the Ducks Day, one of the things. But either way, there'll be a band and ducks on stage. For a Mardi Gras party, we have our good friends from CFG and the Family. If you like a bit of blues and soul music down in the theater, they're coming in, local band. And then we end the month, does anybody like true crime? They like those podcasts where people, yes, I see some hands there. We're doing a live broadcast, live recording for a broadcast of a podcast here dealing with true crimes called Crimes of the Centuries. They also had a podcast out called The Accused. So many different things to see, hear, and do at the Fitton Center. We'd love you to be a part of it. So here we are. Oh, look at that. You guys are all decked out and facing the right direction and shaking your tail feather. Look what I did there. All right. We always like to do things a little bit different. We've been very fortunate over the years to have some fantastic speakers and bringing animals. I was telling Jimmy earlier that we tried to get the penguins from the zoo, but the penguins don't work Wednesdays. It's a real thing. The penguins don't work Wednesdays. Anybody remember when we had the aquarium here, we had the pet sharks. You could pet the sharks because sharks work Wednesdays. Apparently the union's a bit more lenient with the ducks, so they could be here with us today. But it's really important for us at the Fitton Center to be stretching far and wide, particularly with our Celebrating Self, to find things that are around us that you may have heard of and not seen, or might not have heard of before, but particularly those people who are incredibly passionate. We ourselves are a non-profit organization, as is the Longbottom Bird Rescue, and people like Jimmy and his team who really care about our world, care about our community, but care for our animals. And I know we have those. I have a dog at home. I am the second most important person in our family, behind the dog. And we have those in the community who are incredibly passionate about animals of all kinds and making sure that they're taken care of. Particularly, you can make a run for it. He's going to go. I hope so. We're going to get these ducks out here soon enough. that people are incredibly passionate and have people like Jimmy be able to tell their stories about how these things come together, and most importantly, bring our stars of the show. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring the Ducks' best friends, Mr. Jimmy Longbottom, to talk about them, and the Ducks are going to come out here and have a little chat. Jimmy, would you like to take the stage? Thank you very much. Mr. Jimmy Longbottom of Longbottom Bird Rescue here in Cincinnati.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. What a warm introduction. I'm just going to set this here. Thank you to everyone for coming out to hear us talk about ducks and hang out with these ducks. We've had such a warm welcome here in Hamilton. I heard about the bald eagles up the road, and that's all I've talked about, I feel like, for the first hour I've been here today. And that was extremely impressive. I don't know if you all come to a lot of these events, but I was looking for the teleprompter the entire time Ian was speaking. And no, that's all from it. That was very impressive. So like we were saying, my name is Jimmy Longbottom, and I am the executive director of the Longbottom Bird Rescue. We are a domestic waterfowl rescue. Those are the only type of birds we help. Ducks and geese, domestic ones. Why didn't I call it the Longbottom Duck Rescue? I don't know, but that would have been a good idea. I think about it all the time when I get every phone call about a pigeon. Trust me, I think about it. So what we have here are 3 of our domestic duck friends. You can probably hear that they're pretty excited to be here, or the opposite, one or the other. We have Huck. We'll pick them up and introduce you to them all here in a minute, but we have Huck, Goldie, and this gentleman right here, his name is Wild Man. Wild Man was not the duck I meant to bring today. I grabbed the wrong duck. Wild Man's never been away from the farm, so we're all going to keep a close eye on Wild Man, okay? If he gets out, it's all good. I've got it under control. All right. So, domestic ducks, that's what I said. I said we're a domestic duck rescue, and the biggest question I get is, why do you need to rescue a duck? Other than you see a duck wrapped in fishing line, you see a hook in it, you know that duck probably needs help. But what about domestic ducks? I hope I did this right. And there it is. Domestic ducks. So here's all it is. A long time ago, it's a story, a little history lesson. People started breeding ducks, wild ducks, to make them bigger and plumper for meat purposes. That's it. With the mallard, our friend over here with the green head that we all see all the time, over in China, they started breeding them to make them bigger. Ones that had different colored plumage, they would breed them together to make different colored ducks, like some of our friends over here. And that's basically how it all started. That's how we ended up with domestic ducks. Some of you have probably seen the duck to the right here. This is a Muscovy. You see the red all over the face. You probably see them every once in a while. That is a native wild duck in the southern hemisphere. They're in Mexico. You'll find them in South America. Well, they started breeding them the same way that they were doing with the mallards to make them bigger and plumper. So now there's a domestic version of the Muscovy. So that's where domestic ducks come from. The one thing we know about them, they're big and plump. And why is that an issue? Why? I'm going to tell you the truth. This top joke I wrote when I was half asleep, it's going to be really funny. Not great. It's migrate. They can't migrate. So because they are so big and plump, they're so heavy, they cannot get off the ground. That means they cannot fly. And why does that cause an issue for ducks? Well, if you can't migrate, you can't go somewhere warm when it's cold outside, like right now. If you check out our social media or our website, you'll hear all about that. Food sources. When there's all this snow on the ground, they can't forage for food, and they can't fly someplace where there'd be more food. So they starve. Predators, they can't fly away from a coyote. And the elements, I kind of already talked about that, but it's really, they just can't be outside like a wild duck. These ducks, their wings are smaller, they're too heavy to move fast. So that's the reason we need to rescue them, because people buy them as pets, believe it or not. I'm sure some of you have had them as pets or know someone who has. And when they decide they're too much trouble or they're too messy, They leave them in a park or a pond because you see ducks there. Why couldn't this duck live with those ducks? And that's what people think. And we're here to try and educate you and let you know this is why they cannot survive in the wild. So don't leave them there, or call me, or don't even get a duck. That's what I say. Look at that. Let's meet some ducks. Doesn't that sound more fun than the history lesson? All right. Bear with me. We're going to take it nice and easy, and we're going to go with Wild Man first. Because now I'm a professional. Kinda. Oh, what a good duck. So this is Wild Man. And then you look at Wild Man, he's a little wet right now, but you may think, I know this kind of duck. This is a mallard. Oh, this is great. We can do call and response. I didn't know if that was okay. I'm very impressed with everything so far. All right. This is a mallard, or this is a ruin, actually. This is the domestic version of a mallard. So as you can see, it looks like a mallard, talks like a mallard, plays in the water like a mallard. But if I had a mallard next to this duck, you would see this duck is, believe it or not, about 3 times maybe the size of a mallard. And that's a hard life for this duck, because how would you know this duck needs rescued if it looks just like a mallard, right? And that's how you tell the difference. The size, really, and what you can always do, if you see a duck and you're worried they need help, call me, send me a picture, and I'll go out, or I'll tell you, no, that duck's fine, okay? Now, do you want to explain what your quack sounds like for everybody? I have a microphone. No, you were doing it all during the dinner, or during the lunch? So male ducks, this is a male, a drake. They have 3 identifying factors. One, if you're out of the park and you see a bunch of mallards and you want to know if it's a male or a female duck, all the males, only males, will have the green head, right? So there's the plumage. The females are usually going to have duller plumage so that the hawks that are flying over can't see them as easily and find the nest, right? So the males are going to try and peacock a little bit for the predators. So that's why the males have the green head. They also have a different quack. Wait, listen. Well, all right. It sounds like quack, 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 like Donald Duck. Does anybody know what Donald Duck sounds like? Does anybody do that for me real quick? Thank you. It's so funny. I do so many of these things with kids, and they won't even do it for me. So I appreciate that. So that's what the male duck sounds like. And then we have a little girl named Goldie. Hi, Goldie. Goldie's been with us for 7 years now. There it is. Mm-hmm. And I like to bring Goldie because Goldie loves to talk. And you can hear that the female duck sounds like. That'd be awesome if that worked, right? Honk, 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 that deeper sound she was making. And female ducks don't have what's called the drake feather. All the male ducks, these 2 boys, you'll see the big curly Q feather above the tail. That's another way to know the difference. You only really need to know the difference if you're looking for eggs. Last but not least, the mayor of Ducktown himself. Our very most popular duck. This is Huck the Duck. And one of his best qualities is he loves to bite. Right, there it is. Ducks don't have teeth, so don't be too worried. They just have a little serrated area at the bottom to break off a leaf and maybe break the skin if you got lucky. Huck has something unusual about him. What do you notice? Anybody? What's on his head, huh? Well, his hair. This is actually a crest. This is a malformation of the skull. It's a little crack in the top of the head, and the feathers grow up like a helmet to protect him. This is also a neurological disorder, so I like to say that's why he bites me all the time, not because he doesn't like me. And he's on medication for that, has trouble balancing. So how does a duck get this? Because Huck is a khaki Campbell, and that's a breed of duck that doesn't come with this little puff on top of his head. They will breed that into ducks like they breed ducks to be domestic ducks because it looks cool and you can sell them for more money. Oh, really putting on a show, Huck, huh? Right. And even though you have to specially purchase a designer duck like this and have it shipped to you, this duck was still dumped in a creek up by Leesburg. And we pulled him out of there with 5 other ducks and little Goldie here about 6 or 7 years ago. Isn't that right, pal? Do you want to say anything before I put you down, or you just want to bite me again? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okie dokie. That's my buddy. Of all the ducks here, that one has only done this probably 600 times, so still not used to it. All right, buddy. Let me find my clicker that I lost. Why do they make bad pets? So you get a duck as a pet, and I am the #1 fan of ducks in the world, according to me, but I'm the first to tell you that they're a terrible pet to have, and this is why. Fully grown at 4 weeks old. If you sat at this table, you've already heard this entire presentation because I couldn't help myself but give it to them. So at 4 weeks old, that very cute duckling you have is a full-grown duck. They're at their full body weight, so they are messy, sometimes aggressive, and a whole lot to handle. Drake season. Maybe some of you have heard this about ducks. During mating season, which begins in December and only goes until June, just a short little window, the drakes, the males, become increasingly aggressive. It's not their choice. This is how they are programmed. So it makes it very difficult to have them as pets around your other ducks because they will be aggressive enough to really hurt your other ducks. So often people get them as pets, don't know what to do, end up leaving them at a park. Then I got to take them in. Straight runs. So I bet there's people in here who have chickens as pets or have had chickens as pets. You can go to the hatchery, you can go to the feed store, you can get all-female egg layers. They sell them that way. Cannot do that with ducks. It's too hard to be able to tell the sex that early. So when you get a flock of ducks, you buy a bunch of ducklings, you will get whatever you get. And most of the time, that's going to be a bunch of boys. So you end up with a bunch of boys, you were looking for egg layers, you leave them at the park, and they're in trouble. Predators. It's really hard to defend against predators. Top 4 predators you have to worry about for chickens and ducks in order. Anybody got one? Throw one out there. I heard fox. We'll put fox at number 4. I heard coyote, right? Hawks are correct. Cats is a good one. We don't see a ton of those. The barn cat we have out there we've had a peaceful treaty for a while out at the farm. Number 1 is the one that surprises everyone, but this is the one that is what did you say? Human. No, that's probably true. I should rethink this. That is true. Raccoons, number 1. And raccoons are such an issue because they are so smart. If I didn't do duck rescue, I'd be more interested in learning more about raccoons because they're fascinating. They're so smart, they have thumbs, they can undo locks, they can climb, they're very strong. So they are the biggest one you got to worry about, and it can be really hard if you're just trying to do as a hobby to keep these animals you love alive. So also a good reason not to get a duck is to spare yourself the heartache. Did I talk everyone out of this, by the way? Are we good? All right. So how do we raise awareness? I need to stop yelling. How do we raise awareness? One of the things that we do, when we first began this deal, I was trying to get out in front of as many people to talk about why this is a problem, why there is a plight for the domestic duck being dumped, slowly starving and freezing. So we started to take advantage of different ways to get people's attention. Kiwi, a Pekin duck of ours, she passed this year of old age, but prior to that, she won Best Local Artist in City Beat. Yes, I think I heard that correctly. Someone said, what? She made paintings with her feet, and we would sell them as a way to raise money to feed the birds. It was really cool. And then she won Best Local Artist, and people look her up and say, why is this duck here? And they learn about duck rescue. Best Cincinnatian, Fiona the Hippo. We all know who that is, right? Joe Burrow. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure he's nice. Colleen the Goose. This is Canada Goose. I know. We do that too sometimes. Who had to have her wing amputated, and look at her right there, 3rd best Cincinnatian. I know, isn't that nice? So people look us up and they say, what is this? And you find out about duck rescue, and there's Kiwi winning best art exhibit at Rheingeist Brewery. So she was a great girl. Some of you all got to meet her at one point. We try and get out as much as possible to do interesting things. I'm here talking to you today. We also do a large tour of breweries. I go to 30 to 40 breweries every year where I bring the ducks. Why are there ducks at a brewery? For the same reason that I asked that question. It's weird, right? And people are going to talk about it. So we spend a lot of time trying to be creative like that, because the truth is there are 50 to 70 ducks down in New Richmond right now that need help. I'm going to leave here today and go to a place called Combs Park where someone said there's a duck. I brought my net so I can make this a 2-in-1 deal. And we try and do all of these brewery events. I've shown up to movie theaters with ducks after the movie Migration came out to try and stand there and convince kids that ducks were cool. And we try and do anything we can to get ourselves in front of people, because they cannot pass this message on to anybody if we do not have their attention, right? So that's what we try to do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I stood outside that theater and didn't really talk to anybody for about 6 hours. Everybody was there to see Captain America, and there's no ducks in that movie. So where do we keep the ducks? Well, our friends all live at you know what I was going to start this thing and say? I was like, no matter how nice this place is, no matter how nice you all are, you're going to watch a man get pooped on by a duck today. And it did happen. I missed it, but I'll clean that up. We rent land from a private family farm over on the west side of Cincinnati behind Mount Airy Forest. They have alpacas, donkeys, sheep, all kinds of good stuff that I also get to take care of pretty often to help pay for the rent so that we can have a duck rescue. We have close to 200 birds out there right now. That includes domestic ducks and geese. Right up the road, I lease land behind a church where we keep 4 roosters. We have a very small rooster rescue. It's closed. I'm sorry. We can't take any more roosters. That's all we got. And we're getting ready to open up a 3rd location at another church on the west side where a bunch of rescued Muscovies are about to move into. They all have large enclosures that they get to go in at night and be safe from those predators we talked about, stay warm in the winter, and there's plenty of food and water so they don't have to worry about anything ever again. At least that's the plan. Right? How do you all like it so far? Okay, that's good. You got quiet all of a sudden. So Goldie is what we call a Buff Orpington. Has anyone ever heard of that breed before? No? It's a very popular chicken breed, that's why I say that. There's got to be some chicken havers out here somewhere. Buff Orpingtons are known for their beautiful gold color. So the male and female Buff Orpington both, right, look exactly the same. That's why you have issues with certain ducks. We talked about how you could tell the difference between the different drakes and their coloration. Well, there are a lot of breeds like this, and the most popular duck in the world, that big white Pekin duck, you know that one, right? I see a lot of nods. You know that one. That's the most common breed of domestic duck. If you see one in the wild, it's more likely than any other duck going to be one of those big white Pekin ducks. And that's the easiest way to tell if you see a duck that needs help, and you can always reach out to us. I'll do my best. We have a lot of them. The Pekin, you probably have heard of Peking duck before. That's why they're so popular. They're the largest duck, so it's the most meat, and that's why we see them all over the place. But it's not farms, it's not the places those people are buying those ducks from that are causing the issue. It is, you can walk into any feed store. I'm sure some of you do. You go to Tractor Supplies, you go to Rural Kings, and you see the tub of little ducklings there, and it can be hard to say no. Let's say you got a kid with you, and they're like, it's on clearance for 50 cents. I can have a pet duck. Tugging at your sleeve, I empathize with that. And they're not doing you a lot of favors to tell you that the care that duck's going to need. So you just end up in that issue, right? Were you a 50-cent duckling? So our big initiative is we are attempting to get the sale of ducklings taken out of the feed stores in our area. I think you're a little beyond that area, and that's what we've been working towards for a while. The idea that we could take away the impulse buy purchases of these ducks, I'm sure, would save a lot of duck lives. The farms, if you are a fan of eating duck, the places you eat at, they go to a hatchery, and you gotta Google, where do I get this duck? And I know you've done half the work at that point. Right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good. No, you're next. Oh, did they get me again? No. Huck is a khaki Campbell duck. This is the second most common breed of domestic duck. If you buy one, this is the other one you'll see. Ruins, khaki Campbells, and Pekins are the more popular ones you're going to run into. The female khaki Campbell lays 3 times as many eggs. You know, that's my statistic, that based on all the birds I have, but about 3 times as many eggs as any other breed of duck. People love duck eggs. They're great for baking. They love to get ducks for baking, so they often get these khaki Campbells. But you end up with a bunch of boys, and that's why 50 of our residents are boy khaki Campbells. A lot of bakers out there really disappointed, ended up with a duck like Huck, right? Okay. So what does it look like when we go out on a rescue? We did a couple this week. I'll tell you about that. Usually get a call from a park, a school, an apartment complex, and they say, hey, we see a big white duck out there. What are you going to do? So if a duck can swim out into the middle of a pond, that's one of the first things I learned. That's pretty difficult to be able to get out there, right? I could jump in and swim after it, but ducks are better at running, better at swimming, and even though they can't fly, better at flying than I am. So I'm not going to have much luck alone. So what we do is we show up, the duck goes out into the pond, and we put a little remote-controlled boat in that pond. It does little circles, gently. The duck says, I want nothing to do with that. Walks out, and then I chase it around like a fool for usually about 3 hours with a net, and then we get it. That's why you don't see a lot of footage of us doing rescues online, because it never looks cool. I think I'm usually the people that call me out will say something along the lines of, have you ever done this before? That's something I hear pretty often. Believe it or not, so many times. What is my time? Good? Cool. I'll tell you the story of Wild Man. Wild Man was kept in an apartment in Columbus, Ohio. Can we all say that Wild Man's doing a fantastic job right now, by the way, for having never done this before? When we were in the truck headed here, Wild Man jumped out of they sit in the passenger seat. That's how they ride with me, in the passenger in a little comfy tub. Wild Man jumped out of my lap while we were driving here, so I was a little concerned. But you're doing great, pal. Wildman was kept with 2 other ducks in an apartment in Columbus, Ohio. You may not know this, but you're not allowed at most apartments to have ducks. You're laughing, but there is a large contingent of people out there that don't know that, I promise you. We get a lot of apartment ducks, which is ironic because currently I have 2 ducks in my 1-bedroom apartment. But I guess I'm better at keeping it secret. We have 2 ducks recovering from frostbite. One's living in a nice little bed in the bottom of one of our closets. But living in an apartment was brought down because the landlord said they had to get rid of the ducks in their apartment. We hear that pretty often when we have pet surrenders. We usually hear the reasons that I kind of highlighted before, where they're too messy, they're too mean. Most recently, we got a couple of geese that had pooped in a pool, pooped in their swimming pool, so they wanted to get rid of them. I don't know what you thought was going to happen when you got those geese. But yes, all kinds of reasons, all kinds of fun reasons. Another big reason why we like to try and convince people not to get a pet duck. Ducks eat, what? Duck food, duck food. You see the bag right there. Should you feed ducks bread when you go to the park right? I liken it to this. My favorite food in the entire world, and it was not available today, that's okay, I understand, is Flaming Hot Cheetos, all right? Love them. Can't get enough of them. I eat them every day. But I can't eat those for every single meal, and that's all that bread is to ducks, is what we're doing. If we're feeding them, they're going to eat it, and they're going to look happy eating it, right? They would look happy eating pretty much anything because they're probably starving out there. So throwing them bread is just going to fill them up, and they're not going to eat the nutritious stuff they need. So what I like to tell people, if you go to the park often and you feed ducks often, you can pick up a bag of duck food in any feed store in this town. There's a bunch of them. You can wave to the little tub of ducklings as you walk past. Leave it in your trunk, and you can toss it out to ducks. Another great treat for ducks, if you don't want to go to the feed store and buy them duck food, any non-citrus fruit. During the summer, all of our ducks do a little thing called Watermelon Wednesday. It's their favorite day of the week where the ducks all get to enjoy their favorite treat, watermelon. But we only do that on Wednesdays because we want them to get the complete feed they need. Duck feed, peas, green beans are all great sources of something called niacin. Does anyone here take niacin supplements? No, just me? All right. Niacin, maybe it's all the ducks I hung out with. Niacin is something that ducks need from an early age to be able to grow and to thrive. They cannot get it from anything except for certain greens and duck food. So another thing to know when you go to the park and you end up feeding ducks a bunch of bread, they can grow up with deformities. We have a lot of ducks who live in a special care wing with their own little duck wheelchairs from situations like that. I know, I was like, don't get too sad. It's okay. They're cute. They're cute. Is that a warning for me? Yeah. I thought he was cutting me off.
He was just checking a Q&A microphone. You're all good.
So when you go to these parks and you see these ducks out in the wild, what would your next move be if you were to, let's say, I know there was a duck taken from this river down here in the last years. This is a river, a waterway, right? Yeah, we had a duck brought in from there. Like I said, I'm going up to Combs Park. So your first move, if you're out there, does anyone here like to go feed ducks at the park? Nobody. Wow. All right, one person. Good. If you go to feed the ducks at the park and you do notice a big white duck like a pekin, or you see a mallard that looks about twice the size as those other little ducks out there, what do? Call me. That's right. Longbottom Bird Rescue. You can find us anywhere if you Google us, and we'll come out and try and rescue that duck. And if you want, you can stand next to us and say something along the lines of, "Have you ever done this before?" Do you know what you're doing? And then we'll take that duck in. That duck will immediately go to the vet. When they go to the vet, we start off with an avian influenza test to make sure that they're all healthy to be able to join the ducks out in the pasture. And then we have a very special area. I call it the fun time zone. Other people might call it quarantine, where the ducks have to stay for 21 days. So we make sure they're healthy. They don't have a lot of things they pick up in the wild, lice, avian influenza. There's a million things that we have to get tested for. So that's why they sit in quarantine for 21 days. And I only really tell you about that because I like for people to know all of the things that have to happen when these ducks are dumped in the wild and what their life looks like after that and what people have to do for them. There are other people who do waterfowl rescue in the area. Not enough. Not that if anybody here wants to open a duck rescue, talk to me afterwards. I'd be happy to tell you what you got to do. If anybody out here is a billionaire, feel free to reach out to us afterwards also. We have some great investment opportunities at the Longbottom Bird Rescue. So that's what happens once we have the ducks in. They sit in quarantine, and then they get to join general population, which is where all 200 ducks live out on a big pasture, where they have a deep creek they get to swim in for the rest of their days. and about 10 kiddie pools that I have to fill daily because ducks like Huck right here refuse to walk into the creek for some reason. So we set up a series of kiddie pools every single day, and then they get to go back in their houses at night. I think that's my piece.
We've got some Q&A, but we didn't bring in any duck feed, but I do have some Cheetos. They're not flaming hot, but best I could do under
Hey,
a short call.
that's perfect. They won't eat it, but I will.
That was the whole thing. We want to get you taken care of. We got some questions over here.
Yes, oh, sorry. What do you do when you have the ducks they lay eggs, so you guys have the eggs, and then do you also do anything with the eggs? Sell them or?
Great question. I don't know why I just ate that Cheeto. I told you, I love them. Can't get enough. That's an excellent question. So where I keep the roosters at, that church has a nonprofit food pantry also. So part of the deal I worked out with them, they charge me very little rent. They're also just great people. I give them the eggs to use in the pantry, and then people who need them have them. We used to sell them. There was a time before we became a nonprofit where I was really making all of our money off of doing branded content on Instagram. As we were raising ducks, and Purina was paying us to hold up the Purina food and all that, do that. So we used to sell before we were a rescue, we would sell the eggs and try and raise awareness that way, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, and we just found a better use for them there at the pantry.
I have a very dapper Matt Rucker down here for a question.
What are your preventative measures against birds of prey and the raccoons?
Great question. So what do you do? How do you keep out raccoons, hawks, coyotes, fox? It's my favorite thing to talk about. I'm glad you asked. So a lot of my life is spent protecting these birds. Fox and coyotes, they get, in my opinion, I'm sure there's people that have a different opinion, they get a pretty bad rap. It's pretty easy to protect against them once you have a fence up. If the ducks are fenced in, they're not going to put up too much of a fight to try and get in there. I see coyotes 3 times a week. Our rescue is on a farm in the middle of Mount Airy Forest. There's a lot of predators out there for me to see. So that's how I stop the fox and the coyotes. Hawks, they live in an enclosure that has a roof if I'm not out there. All of their enclosures were built large enough so that if we had bad weather like we do right now, and they can't come out when it's -5 degrees, their enclosures are large enough for them to stay in for the day if they have to. So those enclosures have roofs, so if I'm not there to yell at the hawks and wave my hands in the air, which is all I do, that's my preventative measure, they're safe and locked up. But how do you stop a raccoon? Do you know? I would love to hear somebody tell me. Raccoons, how I do it is, this is a little inside baseball, but if you keep birds, this is the thing to know. Chicken wire will keep chickens in, it will not keep anything out. Use hardware cloth on everything. Raccoons cannot get their hands through the hardware cloth. It's very expensive. If you love your birds, it's worth it. I also set out a series of have-a-heart traps every single night during the spring. Those traps are set to catch the raccoons. It's better they're in the traps than in our duck houses, and we do the only legal thing you can do on your property is I then open the traps and release them. And hope they learn their lesson, and then we trap them again the next day, and that's pretty much how it works. I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do it, but efficient isn't really my middle name, so that's just how I like to do it. Another question.
Waving? Yes. On the back here.
You better ask a question.
What's the lifespan of duck, and does it vary among the types of ducks?
It's a great question. I'll answer this one quickly, if that's all right. What is the lifespan of ducks, and does that vary between the breeds of ducks? Yes, it does. So 8 to 12 years is their lifespan. The geese, the domestic geese, is 25 to 35 years. Canada geese is about 20, 25 years. Long time, right? that is another reason people get these pets, and you just don't know the commitment. You get them for your kid. Your kid's gone. It's like a dog, right? Your kid's gone at college by the time that duck's still around. It does vary between the breeds. The pekin, the big white duck, because we bred them for so long to be these big, plump meat ducks, over the generations, their legs started to become very weak. They're too big and heavy for their legs. I have 7 ducks right now that are on meloxicam for arthritis. It always sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. But yeah, I have 7 ducks that get, so those pekins tend to not be on the shorter end of that range. So most of the pekins, Kiwi was 9.5 when Kiwi passed. So they can last. I had a 13-year-old duck until 2 years ago. So they can go for a while. Those geese will be out there longer than I'm ever out there, I'm sure. Yes?
We have ducks that come in to under our feeders.
Yeah.
And they feed under the feeders and eat all the bird food that drops and probably everything else, whatever, because everything's gone.
Sure.
So now with the snow, et cetera, they've disappeared. And I'm hoping they have found a place to go. Where do they go?
What did they look? Were they mallards, or did they look like interesting ducks? Not that mallards aren't interesting.
No, well, mallards and then ladies following him.
And what else?
Ladies following him.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't know if you hear the tension in my voice. I'm like, where was this? Can I go look? So it's interesting with the way it is now. I want to talk a little bit about wild waterfowl because it's hard for me to separate the two often. If you're a person and you find an injured mallard duck and you Google, duck Cincinnati, help it, I'm just going to come up, but I'm not a wildlife rescue. But because that happens so often, I often end up taking mallards or wood ducks, ducklings usually that fell in window wells or in sewers, and we just raise them to adults and release them. But to answer your question, Canada geese, mallards, American black ducks, many of them have been able to no longer migrate because they find water that is moving still. Fountains in apartment complexes, you have a lot of shopping centers where for some reason the water doesn't freeze. So they'll stay. Maybe they have a bird feeder they know is always full, so they're going to stay because they know there's always food there. So where did they go? They probably flew away. If they were wild birds like that, I wouldn't be too worried about them. If they've got wings that work, they'll find a safe place to get out of the snow. Yeah.
Do the domestic ducks and the wild ducks mate? I mean, is that a population that...
They can. It's the trick there is the viability of the egg. So a wild duck, the question was, can a wild duck and a domestic duck mate? What would happen there? They can. Some of the wild ducks I've taken in and released to the wild have decided not to leave. So I do have some mallards that stay for their free food, and they do commingle with the domestic ducks. What's going to happen is usually the domestic ducks are too big, and so they won't even start that. But if they do, the egg usually won't stay viable to hatch just because the differences in the ducks.
I have a
Great
question
question.
about, you just said that you're not like an animal rescue person. What is your background? Like, how did you wind up getting into this?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Well, I was a bartender my whole life. As a matter of fact, I was voted I'm going to say it. I was voted Charleston, South Carolina's hottest bartender in 2015. So here's the dirty little secret about like niche animal rescue, or really any animal rescue. There's not enough people doing it. There's just not people doing it. And if you're somebody who's like me, who at the time that I got those ducks, I was managing Sam Adams, the brewery downtown, and I had a little backyard flock and just having a good time, and it just spiraled out. That's it. But I was able to find a great duck vet, Marymount Veterinary Clinic, if you're ever looking for a place that knows how to handle any animal, and he was able to teach me so much about ducks and be able to do what we do. Great question.
Was there a calendar involved?
No, there wasn't, no, but I've got the article if anybody wants me to email it to them. Just let me know.
I hate to bring this up, but We have, when the babies are to be born, the eggs they lay, and we have some really neat ducks
Yeah.
around our condo. But we also have some disgusting geese,
Yeah.
and they don't ever go away. And I found out the other day they won't get out of my yard because the pond's frozen and they won't walk on the pond. So would you like some?
It's a good question. And I love that you brought it up because, again, it is hard to talk about waterfowl without talking about everyone's least favorite waterfowl, the Canada goose. I know we showed, there's Gabby right there. Believe it or not, of all the Canada geese I got, I can tell the difference immediately. It's little Gabby. You know, Canada geese now have two, what I was just talking about, there's two different types. There's non-migratory and migratory. And that is because we were like, we can get food here. So a lot of the Canada geese we see out there now, because I'm sure we saw a lot leave. I know we all looked up in the air and we saw those flying V's head south. These non-migratory Canada geese, there's nothing, it's a hard deal because they are protected by, even though they're non-migratory, they are protected by the federal government and the Migratory Treaty Act. Did I mess that up? So the same reason that I can't, without a special license, help a Canada goose, I can't. It's illegal. 5 years in jail, $15,000 fine is the deal. It's the same reason that somebody can't just pick one up and move it out of their yard. It's a whole area that needs some attention that, unfortunately, I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to solve it. It's a lot of Canada geese just calling the same place home that a lot of people are trying to call home. But no, unfortunately, I can't. I'm all full. I'm out of that game. I don't have any, but if I did, I have 7 already. So.
I think we had one. Do we have a question at this table? Did I see a hand up? Over here. I was close.
I just wonder if geese have to have grit like chickens to digest their food.
No, great question. Do geese or ducks need grit like chickens do to digest their food? Chickens have a crop where the food will go in and they'll use that grit or maybe stones to break it down. The ducks have an esophagus that expands a little bit. And so what that does is it'll kind of expand and it doesn't need to break it down like that. With the ducks, if you're ever to feed them something, because unlike the chickens that have the sharp bill that maybe, if they want to, can break something off, you've probably seen that these ducks, other than that serrated area, don't have much they can do. So sometimes you will find that a duck will swallow something that's too big and you have to massage it down for them. So if you feed them treats, it's always great with the melon or the watermelon like I do to chop it into little itty-bitty pieces like that. So that was my very long no, I guess. that was my very long-winded no, they don't need that. Another question, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, got one.
I wondered, do you spay or neuter the ducks? I mean, like you do cats and dogs, or?
Good question. I wish. No, you don't. All I do, which I do the thing that it works just the same, is every day I collect all the eggs. Because we're not going to, that's our deal, no babies, right? I don't need more ducks. I don't need to create more ducks. So every day I collect all the eggs, and if I collect all the eggs, then they can't sit on them, nest on them, and I won't see any babies, in theory. Yeah.
Nice job, Bob Barker.
Yeah.
How do you pay for all of this?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. How do I pay for all this? What a good question. We really get a lot of donations. Most of our donations come from, it's funny because I did a very nice interview leading up to this, and I was trying to explain this then, and I couldn't do it. We got really popular on social media. That was it. And we get a lot of people. Most of our donations come from just people who like birds in Canada, in England, in Australia. They send us money. I will post and be like, hey, I got this new duck in. We just had a duck. We took it to get its leg amputated because a fishing line had wrapped around so tightly there was no other choice. It was about $1,000. I don't have $1,000. So I will post about that and be like, we can help this duck, and they will send it. It was a big transition for us because we were getting a lot of money when we were doing the sponsored content. That was our cash flow. But at some point, we took in too many birds and we had to find another way. So becoming a nonprofit, a 501c3, we thought would open up a lot of opportunities for grants to us. That was my thinking. We'll just get grants all the time. Turns out they don't just send you a check, I guess. So how that worked, you just become a 501c3, but you have to do some work and you have to apply for those things. So I'm trying to work on find a little bit more time to sit down at a computer, or if anybody wants to volunteer, let me know. But that's it, just donations we get. I work jobs to really fill the bowls most of the time.
I got a question here from somebody you might know.
We've got a ringer.
If one of us wanted to host an independent fundraiser for the bird rescue, can we do that?
Yeah, you sure can. We go anywhere. Yeah, good question. Yeah, we go anywhere. Like I said, we go to breweries, but we did last year something we did that we didn't popularize a lot was we went to 14 different community centers. We tried to hit that was actually, it's my partner Megan. Megan's idea that we go to different community centers, and we did that last year. We'll go anywhere. We have Ducks Will Travel. So if anybody's interested, yeah, we would love to. You can always contact me. It's jimmy@longbottombirdrescue.org. You can see that on our social media or our website. We're open to pretty much anything.
Well, thank you very much. Jimmy Longbottom, ladies and gentlemen, and Goldie, Huck, and of course the incredibly well-behaved Wild Man. Put your flippers together there. What did ducks have? Feet? Webs?
Yeah, feet.
Duck's feet. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm obviously well versed in veterinary science. Thank you so much, Jimmy. We really do appreciate it. What a great and interesting talk, and wonderful to meet these fun feathered friends. We hope that the winter serves you all well. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Longbottom of Longbottom Bird Ranch. Well, we hope you've enjoyed a cold Wednesday with us here at the Fitness Center, but we will be back next month. We're going to talk a little bit. I know I'm finishing up. We're going to talk a little bit about the Muses. We're going to talk about what's going on and the history of Music Hall, that beautiful building down in downtown Cincinnati. And then, no joke, in April we're going to be doing a little April Fools. We promise it's for real. So much to see and do. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together one more time. Mr. Jimmy Longbottom. Longbottom Bird Rescue. We hope to see you next week for a Mardi Gras party. Lots of things to see and do at the Fitness Center. We appreciate you. Have a lovely afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you soon.